Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast, celebrating filmmaking, storytelling and cinema across the island of Ireland. This podcast has been made possible with the support of Screen Ireland, and today we catch up with producer Peter Kilmartin and director Ailill Martin, whose short film The Good Farmer and the Failed Son was selected for the Netflix documentary Talent Fund and has just premiered at the Raindance Film Festival. The film follows Jack, a performance artist, and his father Bryan as they face an uncertain future for their farm and have questions around Jack's place in it. The Good Farmer and the Failed Son is available to stream now on the Still Watching Netflix YouTube channel. Thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having us, Gemma.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's a really, really beautiful film. I'm going to dig into what it was like on the programme, the ins and outs of it, the project itself. But first, how did you guys meet? What's your creative relationship sort of formed on? Because it's, projects like this are a lot of work. It takes a lot of trust to be able to get them across the line.
Yeah, we met through doing kind of corporate work at first. I reached out to Peter because I'd seen some of his stuff, and I'd seen some of the documentaries that he'd made before as well. So it was a fairly kind of organic meeting, really. We just had a chat, started working on a couple of smaller projects, and then kind of built our way up. And then when I had this documentary idea, Peter was the first person that I approached to produce it.
And I was wondering as well, like in this, your own paths as well. Maybe how did you even get into corporate work? What was your journey as a filmmaker? I know you were DOP and from IIDT.
Yeah, just basically when I graduated from college, I didn't want to work in a coffee shop, so corporate work kind of kept me taken over and kept a camera in my hand. So that's really how I got into the corporate side of things. And it's nice to have on the side while you're working on passion projects.
Yeah, I'm very serious. That's like I went to IIT, went to film school, and I probably was laughed at a little bit, like doing corporate work and commercial work at the start. But as Ailill said, it kept the camera in our hands, and it's a lot to be said for being in high pressure environments and learning on the go and dealing with clients and dealing with people. Because you can learn a lot when it comes to making films as well, because a lot of it would be transferable. Yeah, I set up a company called Spicy Dog in 2017 and I worked on that for the last, I suppose, 8 or 9 years, and worked with loads of people like Ailill, and was delighted when Ailill came knocking on the door with a doc, and we were delighted to support it. And it kind of, Ailill will say, it kind of grew very organically from that. Ailill didn't, like, it was only really an idea when you had first came to us, and we had said to you that we'd support you, and then it kind of grew from there, and it was a good decision to support, I suppose. So yeah, we were delighted to be partnering with you.
And in terms of that relationship, was it quite a distant one then? Was it that you were both familiar with each other's work and sort of happy to collaborate on this? Or, had you met a bunch of times and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, we'd worked together a good few times beforehand, and we knew each other a few years at this stage, I'd say, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, we'd met and worked on stuff before, so it wasn't like we were jumping into something having never worked together before or anything like that. So it was kind of smooth sailing from the beginning, really.
And I know the call out for the documentary pitch, it was quite simple for round one. They weren't looking for too much information. It was just a concept down. Tell me a little bit about, how this idea was formed, and then, getting it in for that stage. Was it a case of you knew this was the one, or is it you put it away and didn't think about it?
Yeah, so the idea just kind of came from, I wanted to make a documentary about farming and inheritance, and I was kind of fishing around for characters, and I was finding the subject matter a little bit dry, and maybe kind of, just a little bit, not boring, but a little bit dry. And then I met Jack through a friend of mine, and we were both just chatting about both being from farming backgrounds. And then he explained to me his situation and what he was trying to do through his drag. And then I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I think you'd be a very good character for a documentary. So that's pretty much where the idea started from. We just started doing a couple of film days. I went up to Jack's farm, just myself, did one shoot day, and then we cut together like a proof of concept trailer from that. I think it was at that stage then that I approached Peter and was like, look, this might be a good idea. And we were kind of, shopping around for potential funding opportunities. And I actually found out, I think I found out about the Netflix thing through listening to your guys' podcast. Um, and yeah, so then stage one of it was super simple. It was just like a log line and I think a real brief concept outline. And yeah, we just kind of we took it from there. I thought from the beginning that the idea would suit the Netflix brief. And I was kind of quietly confident that we'd get through to round two. And then we got through to round two, and then we kind of just took it from there. And then as each round went on, we kind of were like, okay, this is getting kind of more and more serious, and we might be in with a shot here.
And tell me about what the rounds were like. And again, because you're up against some serious competition. Like there's a lot of people, and it's quite a high level of applications as well. But yeah, like tell me about the rounds. What was it like then going through? So you were on board, Peter, as well at this stage. You weren't. It wasn't like you were kind of brought. You were like, I'm in on this. It's not if, it's when we get the money from where. And yeah, like round two. What was that? Like getting that email going, oh, you're in now. What was that?
I think it was so. I think we sent a log line and a basic like synopsis, and then you send over the trailer, wasn't it? All next, we sent over a proof of concept trailer, and then we did.
I think it was, yeah, I think round two was sort of a little bit more kind of like a pitch deck. So we would have included the trailer in that.
Oh, yeah.
And it more like, just what you'd usually have in a pitch deck. So like producer statements, director statements, a little bit of background. And then I think round three was a Zoom call with them. I think that's right, isn't it, Peter?
We had a Zoom call. And then after that, then we found out that we were invited over to Netflix HQ in London. We had to go over and do a formal like pitch where
That's like going for like a tech job interview or something. It's so many stages as well.
I was, yeah, the Netflix HQ thing was really serious. Like they like literally walk you into a room with, there must have been 20 or so people in a room, and you formally pitch to them like it was like kind of a Dragon's Den style sort of a pitch, and you present to them, and then they ask you all these questions. And it was like head of factual in Netflix UK and Ireland was there. It was like there's some big hitters in the room. So it's funny, we're laughing when I do it, like what are us two Egypts doing in Netflix HQ? Like it was nearly comical us being there. It was great. It's great.
Yeah, but even like let's like go back to three, the Zoom call. Is there an element of you don't want to get too attached, or that you kind of like you prep everything? Have you been sort of developing the idea more in the meantime, or like did you know immediately what you wanted to say going in?
I think at that stage we were making the doc either way. And I was kind of always, I think we were always going to make it regardless of the Netflix thing. I think round three was probably the most, maybe like nerve wracking, because it was like, oh, we're quite close to being.
We're so close. Yeah.
So round one was like, round one and two was kind of like, oh, cool, it's nice to have made it through these. And then round three was like, okay, we're actually quite close to being invited over, and that would be class. So, but that being said, like round three was fine as well. It was nothing. It was nothing that we weren't prepared for. It was kind of always, I think it was always a case of, I was pretty confident in the idea. I knew I liked the idea. I was confident that someone was going to want to fund it. And it was kind of like, yeah, it would be very cool if Netflix decided they wanted to fund us. So I think that probably helped us as well when we were dealing with them, because, we were kind of coming at it from a point of view of, this is a really cool opportunity, rather than, oh God, please pick us,
So you're having your chats. Like, do you get a sense of if you've gotten it or not from that interview? Are you like, okay, like you've no way of knowing, or you have that inkling that, oh no, that did go really well?
I don't know.
Sorry, Peter, you go ahead.
No, I just think I'm just laughing. Like we got onto, I think it was a tube in London afterwards. I remember me and Ailill talking, and we were just like, we did as good as we possibly could, but we still didn't know. Like from our perspective, we had rehearsed. We knew we wanted to say. We knew the questions we wanted to get asked and answer. And like from a rehearsal point of view and from a pitch point of view, we were like, yeah, that probably couldn't have went any better. But at the same time, you never know. There's so many other factors that will affect whether you get selected or not, that we still didn't know. I think we were happy, Ailill, but we were still like, it was funny. It was just before Christmas. We're like, we were going kind of breaking up for Christmas, thinking, will we or won't we? Did we find out before or after all where we got?
Yeah, it was before Christmas. I think, yeah, like Peter said, I think it was that same thing again of like, well, like that is the idea. That's what we wanted to say. And so if you like it, there it is. And if you don't,
Yeah.
no hassle. Yeah, we weren't coming out of any of the stages, I don't think, being like, oh God, we forgot to say this, and what if they think that? It was just like, yeah, well, again, I think because the idea was nice and simple and we had confidence in it and we had actually started making the doc as well, we knew what we wanted to do. So it was kind of like, yeah, if you want to kind of support us and come with us, then there it is. But yeah, we got the phone call just before Christmas. Yeah, I was just out in the garden. Yeah, and Libby called me. She didn't tell me right away either. She was like, "What do you think the news is?" And I was like, "Oh."
It's like reality TV. It's like, okay, step forward.
I was kind of like, "I'm guessing you wouldn't ask me that if it was a no, so it's probably yes." Yeah, and then it was great to hear that we'd gotten it. Yeah, nice little Christmas present.
Yeah, it's just to know what to expect. Because again, like you start the early days, you send off your application and then you never know what's going to come. So you got that news. That was a lovely Christmas present. When did things start to kick off?
Well, we'd already really started production, haven't we? Like we were making it, like that was the thing, like that. So that probably gave Netflix some confidence as well that these guys were already going to make it anyways. So like there was no kind of ifs or buts. But really after Christmas, then it really kind of the rubber hit the road. And
Yeah, like Peter said, like it's not, it wasn't like, oh, now Netflix are involved. Let's get, 5 camera ops on these shoots. It was just like, I think the next shoot that I did it was just me and a sound op, on the farm. And then at the end of the shoot, I was chatting to Jack and his dad, and I was like, yeah, by the way, we got picked for the Netflix thing. And yeah, it was kind of funny because it was just 4 of us standing in a field in Loud, and I was like, yeah, well, I suppose we're just going to continue to do this, but yeah, now we've got Netflix supporting us, which was cool. But no, it didn't change too much, which was really cool as well, because like they weren't overbearing or anything, which we weren't concerned about, but we were like, we're not sure what the process is going to be like, but they very much left us to do our own thing, and then we're there to support us anytime we had like a question.
So like there isn't the need that you need that mentorship level. So I presume if you're going in at a more basic level, they're going to bring you through the steps. But because you were sort of already well on your way and this isn't like a completely new thing, you were, well, it's probably grand for their mentor people. Like they can divert those resources where they needed to. But then things like calling them in, that assistance, I suppose as well, the deliverables are probably more intense as well. That if you were, like just getting something ready for festivals.
what they did for deliverables was they essentially treated us as a feature film going on to the Netflix platform. So we had to do all the same deliverables that any major, motion picture would have to do if they were going on. So yeah, there was for us definitely as producers, it was a great experience because number one, we got access to Netflix Legal, and we got to have Zoom calls at Netflix Legal. And I remember one of the guys at Netflix Legal said to us, "This is the only time in your life that you're going to have a free lawyer. So ask me whatever questions you want." So I was even asking, like, I'll laugh. I was even asking them questions about. I was like, hypothetically, if I had another project and this was happening, what would happen? And he was like, "Yeah, just ask the question. Just use my knowledge." So it was actually, they were dead sound. That they were really. The deliverables were really heavy. A lot of paperwork. We must have done 20 or 30 pages of detailed paperwork on different pieces, stuff that we didn't annoy Al with too much. We left him to the creative stuff, and we kept that going. So no, but it was great experience, and great for us as a production company to be able to prove that we could do something of that caliber.
Yeah, and walking through it in a safer space than if, like if you're actually delivering that for the first time, like you're not only trying to get something up to a standard, but then you're like, how much? This is so much more.
No, it was, yeah, but it was all manageable. Like we managed it quite well, and they were very, very, very helpful. Like I can't describe how helpful they were. Like any questions we had, they were well able to walk us through it, and they were very sound about the whole thing as well, and very understandable if we had any questions that they mightn't have had before or whatever. They were just just really easy to work with, I have to say.
Yeah. And that's from the production thing. That's like getting access. Like in terms of, I'll get creatively. Like the creative thing is its own dig dive. But in terms of in the contracts, in what they're looking for as part of the process, do they have specific requests? Like, are they going, who's your crew? Like, I mean, I presume all that will be there in the application and the pitch stages. But like now that you're there, it's different confirming it because you're like, oh, actually, they're working on like, I don't know, like Wednesday season 2. They're not available now. So like, do they look for, say, on talent, on that, or like is all that stuff kind of left to your own devices? Like, and when are you checking in and showing them cuts and stuff?
Yeah, they were pretty good at, I mean, there definitely wasn't any requests about you have to have X, Y, and Z on your crew or anything like that. It was, yeah, I think from a legal point of view, it was just like, are all the characters in your film happy to be part of it? Do you have locations? For us, it was pretty straightforward because it was two characters and they lived up the road in Louth, you know what I mean? So there wasn't that particularly tricky. I think some of the other teams had a little bit more bother around that, but no, that side of things was all pretty straightforward to us. And for the most part, yeah, they kind of just left us to our thing. And then in terms of the deliverables, we showed them a couple of different cuts. We showed them like a very early stage cut, and they gave us good feedback. Thankfully, it was all feedback that kind of lined up with what we thought the issues were as well, which was good that there was nothing like, super left field in their feedback. And then I think they gave us one more round of feedback, and we're kind of like, yeah, you're pretty much good to go. Just keep doing what you're doing in the edit. And yeah, and then it was just like that. It was all very, kind of smooth sailing. Yeah, from a delivery point of view, like that, like Peter said, there was a lot of paperwork, but no particularly difficult requests or unusual, questions or anything like that. So it was pretty straightforward.
What we had to do as well, just thinking of check-in, we had to do every fortnight, we had to do a check-in document where it was like a live link where you update them, like, how's it all going, any problems or any concerns, and you will update that. And then that would be kind of their way of not annoying you. Once you get that document updated, they kind of check in quietly without having to press and poke and prod.
And in terms of then creatively, so like get into the meat, so you get to go shoot this. How many days shoot? Did you have that story written in your head, or was there anything that surprised you as you were going into it?
Yeah, so we had at the very beginning, it was pretty rough when I was shooting the concept trailer. It was like, let's just go up and meet the characters and kind of see what they're like actually on their own farm and stuff. But then as it went along, parts of it were written. So like the beginning of the film, the whole intro sequence, that was all like actually written as a script, because the idea with that was to sort of set up a very traditional world, this kind of world of farming and like the older farmers in a very confined space and all shot on long lenses and everything to set up what looks like a kind of serious documentary about aging farmers. And then you have Jack pop up out of this field and run off into the distance, and that's kind of the twist, that it's going to be something quite different. So like, elements of it were kind of, as scripted as they can be in doc. And I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted it to look on screen. But then it was really important that we'd keep a lot of ob doc stuff in there as well. It was kind of a nice balance between the two of them. So, we'd have a scene which was a little bit more scripted or intentional, and then to try and kind of put in as much ob doc stuff as possible. So there was certain shoot days where I would just go up onto the farm with no real kind of plan in mind. It was just like, let's just follow you as you clean out a shed with your dad and see what happens. And like, inevitably that's where the really nice little moments between the two of them come from.
Yeah, and it's very warm. It isn't, like one might think, oh, it's that weight. I think that story has always been presented in this very kind of heavy way, and there's themes, and there is elements of how their relationship will go against tradition and what that means, but it's like, and those questions are still there, but I think it just makes it so enjoyable. And is nice as a viewer to engage with, light, funny, but very heartfelt.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea, but we were like setting up this question, which is like a very, kind of relevant question today. What's going to happen to all of these farms? As all of these farmers are getting older and people don't want to take them over, but rather than bring you on a very kind of maudlin, journey through that question, it was more so, look, this is the situation these two characters are in. Lots of other people are in this situation as well. And this is what it looks like, rather than being like, this is the situation and this is what's going to happen and this is the only solution, because the whole point of it is that it's a difficult question to answer. So yeah, we definitely made it more about Jack's relationship with his dad and the nuance there, and the fact that, again, we're setting it up as though you're maybe expecting it to be kind of like a grumpy old father and his son who does drag, and they're very, different from each other. But the reality is they get along very well and they have a very close relationship. Yeah, and basically we just we wanted to show that, but at the same time show how difficult the situation was and how that there's no easy answers to a lot of these questions. So that's kind of what we decided to focus on, rather than it just being a case of, will he, won't he, in terms of taking over the farm.
So you were saying like this was quite structured in many ways. What was the edit like then, in terms of, okay, so you're kind of working with Netflix, but in terms of like finding those beats to the story, was there any finessing? Was there anything that you had to lose?
Yeah, so the edit was great. Ronan Fox, our editor, was like fantastic. He got on the same wavelength as me really quickly, which was cool. What we did with the edit was, we knew that we were going to have certain sequences. So like the intro, kind of as I had that shot, I was like, okay, I think that's all going to cut together pretty well, and it did, thankfully. So yeah, we weren't worried about the intro, and we knew we were probably going to finish with Jack's final performance as well. And there's a couple of other beats in there that we were like, we think we know how this is going to fit in. But then the edit basically became about, let's add in more and more obdoc. So let's add in as much of those like organic moments as we can. So yeah, when I say the film is structured, we had an idea of how it was going to fit together, but within each scene, it's Jack and Bryan leading the action and like obviously leading the dialogue and stuff, so we did want to try and keep it as obdoc as possible. But yeah, the whole edit process was really good. It was cool to find more and more of those moments, and basically the more we put in, the more it kind of enriched the story, and the more it became, you got more of a window into their day to day and their relationship.
And how consuming is this then as a process? Like, where does your other day-to-day work sit in alongside this? Because I could presume at certain times, if you're like, it didn't, maybe from the outside, it doesn't feel like a huge turnaround. How did you guys kind of like structure that within, like maintaining your corporate work? And you were starting a new company, weren't you, at the moment?
Yeah, we just launched a sister company called Chaser, which was dedicated to making more kind of commercial work, so really premium commercial work and docs, and this happened to be our first doc with Chaser. So we're delighted to launch with a Netflix logo on the website, which is great.
Nice, yeah.
But I suppose me and Ailill would have had a weekly call every Thursday, I think it was, that we just kind of catch up. How we doing? Do we need anything? Do you need anything from us? And I suppose because we kept the crew quite micro, there was a very tiny crew.
Yeah.
Ailill was very easily able to manipulate shooting days that suited him and Bryan and Jack best. And then it was just really, once the edit started, it was kind of Ailill and Ronan bashing heads together and hammering it out. And the Netflix side of things, we would have handled a lot of that kind of mess and paperwork and stuff, kind of to leave Ailill with the edit. And yeah, it was quite smooth, I have to say. Like, there wasn't really anything majorly stressful or anything. It was actually quite smooth. The most annoying part for us was probably the subtitles. We had to subtitle it and get that all right, and then we had to get changes and back and forth, and that was a bit of a mess. But
would you be doing that in an SRT file, or is it just like does it have to be kind of like embedded in it?
Well, the complication was, so as part of the deal, Netflix allow us to use one of their post houses in the UK, Air. But we had already built up a relationship with Raygun in Dublin, and we wanted to use Raygun, and we agreed with Netflix that we could use our own post house and deliver all to Air for the DCP. But what ended up happening was that we made the subs file, embedded it in and sent it over, and then there was a mistake with the subs. We'd go back then and re-export, and it just got a bit messy. But no, it was all good in the end. It just meant that there was a few too many chefs in the kitchen when it came to that period.
Oh God.
Yeah. From my side of things, in terms of it being a consuming project like that, Peter was great in terms of the producing side of things and all of the paperwork that came along. That he was able to field a lot of that and kind of leave me to to the creative side of it, I guess. But yeah, I think I've been working on it for like nearly 2 years. Obviously not constantly, but you're kind of always thinking about it. So yeah, it was fairly all consuming. Now that we finished it, it's kind of funny. I'm like, oh, I don't have to think about that as much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, that's the fun of it. I really liked I like just jumping into the whole, that world. And obviously I'm from a farm, so I was pretty familiar with it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun just kind of submerging yourself in a world like that.
Projects we were working alongside it. You had your TG Carr documentary. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I did a documentary called Hit the Wall. It's about Gaelic handball. We did that last year and the year before. It's up on the TG Carr player. There was a little bit of crossover, so I was just finishing that off as I started The Good Farmer and The Failed Son. They're quite different, in terms of projects. But yeah, it was nice to jump from a sports doc straight onto something like this, which is a little bit more ob doc, a little bit more I guess art housey in a small way. And yeah, now that I've finished that, I'm kind of like, okay, I have to figure out the next project now.
What was it like finally seeing it? Like, you had the premiere over in London. Was that incredibly exciting to get to go?
Yeah, so we premiered at Raindance, which was super exciting. We were part of a shorts program with the other Netflix films, and ours was last up in the program, which is always a little bit kind of nerve-wracking because you're waiting for it to come up. But no, it got a great reception, and very, very cool to see like an audience react to it, and how much they connected with it, and laughed in the right parts and stuff. Yeah, so that whole experience was great, and then just to kind of actually get to meet all the people from Netflix again in person and chat through some stuff was great. So yeah,
we were also, Ailill is forgetting that we were also nominated for Best Short Doc for Raindance as well. So Ailill has been too modest by not saying that. But yeah, so it's huge achievement.
Yeah, we lost to Ben Proudfoot, who already has 2 Oscars. So I think he did.
Not too bad. But that's like, it's so incredible, and it's such a big achievement from 2000 to just being in that sphere and getting to showcase your work. I do think there is something that this particular project, it does elevate it so much. Like, you have this inbuilt audience that is, like spanning the entirety of Ireland and Britain, and you're kind of in the mix with some amazing creatives and walking through it as if you were delivering something much higher in a kind of very safe and nurtured space, which sounds very nice. What, like, is there any kind of key takeaways that you have coming out the other end of it?
I think just like when you have like a deliverable, so when you have to deliver a project by a certain date and in a certain format, so like we were given that it had to be about 12 minutes, ours is a little bit longer than that, but that it has to be around that length, and this is the delivery date for it. It kind of focuses your mind, so you have to get quite efficient with how you're doing things, you know. So even when it comes to shooting a scene, rather than just going up being like, ah, sure, look, let's just see, maybe this will be something, maybe it won't. It's like you're shooting stuff with the edit in mind a little bit more, which I found really helpful, because I think maybe before I was a bit kind of sloppy with just going up shooting scenes and stuff. But yeah, when you know what you have to deliver, and what your audience is and what you're aiming for, you start shooting stuff and editing stuff with that in mind. And I'd like to do that on the rest of my projects from now on, I think, because yeah, it really, I think it helps the overall quality and definitely the overall like clarity of the project as well.
Amazing. And Peter?
But like I understand that. Like I remember chatting to you all when we first spoke about this, and you had a good idea what the doc was gonna look like. Like in credit to you, like you did have a good vision. And I suppose from our end, that's probably what attracted us to the project and to yourself, that it wasn't very wishy-washy, and oh, maybe this way. Like you, in credit to you, like you really knew what you wanted, and I respected that a lot, and that's probably what really gravitated us towards the project in the first place. Key takeaways, I don't know. Key takeaways is, you know, stick to your gut, stick to the story, and, you know, really respect the creative. We respected Ailill massively, and basically, you know, anything that he wanted from a creative point of view that we really tried to deliver on, because we respected his vision massively. So I suppose just stick to that and trust your gut.
Gosh, that's fantastic. Congratulations. It is just a beautiful documentary. It's great to see you know, something so local, so open, so warm, you know, kind of like placing and representing Ireland in the mix. Like, it's lovely to have that. And thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thanks very much, Gemma.
Yeah, thanks very much. And thanks for your time.
And thank you so much for listening in. So make sure to rate and subscribe to Film Ireland wherever you get your podcasts. And for news, reviews and events, subscribe to our newsletter at filmireland.ie.